you brought this up, and I want to talk about it. Again, it was at least it relates to Warren, and like what's really the thing that people have latched onto and has granted her increasing purchase in this race is this idea of her plans.
Yes, she's got plans, folks.
She's got plans. She's a Cylon, basically. And like you made the point that like that is so the idea about the candidate who's like done all the homework has everything figured out is like so perfectly pitched to that audience of people, but it's also like sort of demobilizing for an electorate in a certain extent.
Yeah,
like
just that kind of thing only appeals to people who have succeeded in the meritocratic treadmill, in the hamster wheel of getting into a good school and getting a good degree, getting good grades, and getting being a success. People who've made that a successful move, they value it. Even if they believe themselves to be progressive, they value that meritocracy. They value people based on their ability to succeed like that as well. They have actual contempt, honestly, for poor people, because even if they mouth things about systemic issues for poor people, they also blame people for failing, which is why they sublimate all of their contempt for the poor people on poor whites, because they can say, I don't hate every poor person because poor minorities have too many structural racism issues to prevent. That's why they can't succeed. But poor whites with white privilege, you have no excuse.
Right.
You're just a fucking loser. And then you're racist to boot, fuck you.
Yeah.
And if you haven't succeeded on the meritocratic treadmill, then this means nothing to you.
Right.
Look how detailed my plans are. I mean, and even on a tactical sense, it's meaningless because it doesn't get anything passed, especially since the fucking president, by the way, doesn't write bills. The president doesn't actually write legislation. That is the prerogative of fucking Congress. You can propose an idea.
In practice.
No, it doesn't.
No,
they have
practice,
the people writing those bills are not going to be in the White House. They're going to be on the Hill.
Releases a budget, and its allies in Congress introduce it, and that becomes what the
yeah, but it doesn't pass. They don't pass budgets.
It's a bargaining position.
Right,
it's where it begins.
But I'm saying
it's a holistic
what I am
process.
saying is that the actual meat gets put on the bone and on the Hill. So this is all beside the point, and it doesn't contribute to whether it gets passed, because the fact that nobody really wanted to confront is that you can't get much passed given the structural impediments. And if you have if you're governing and you're pitching like Warren to the professional media class, to these people who have gotten good grades their whole life, you are. I think we could see that. I think that even polling bears us out. You are less likely to engage more marginal people who are actually suffering more in the economy, people who haven't won in the economic crapshoot, and are less likely to vote as a result of that. There's a poll that came out while we were at Netroots saying that Bernie's base is poorer, more diverse, by the way, racially, and less likely to vote, less invested in politics.
Lower educational attainment as well.
And Warren's is highly educated, whiter, and more successful and much more politically engaged. Now, if your candidate is someone who engages those people, you're going to lose a significant chunk of those less engaged voters. And the thing is, there's no path to any kind of success in traditional politics. There's no path to the critical change we need that does not involve a vast increasing in the electorate. Like, the only way to overcome these institutional obstacles we have now, from gerrymandering to the Senate itself to the courts, is by overwhelming them with people. That's the only solution within electoralism that is there. The electorate, as it has taken for granted by both parties, with roughly even share and then a little sliver of moderates who go back and forth, that will never change anything. It's by definition can't. So that
rolling down the street, registered moderates.
A Warren nominee kind of guarantees that you'll probably win. You know, Trump is spectacularly unpopular. I mean, she could lose to him. I wouldn't rule it out, especially if the economy stays relatively strong. But she could also beat him. But she's going to beat him narrowly, and it's going to be the same thing as like second-term Obama, where it's just gridlock and failure, and that will lead then to Tom Cotton or somebody else coming in when everyone gets disillusioned. A Bernie candidacy could, I'm not guaranteeing it could, but it's the only possibility that could actually enlarge the electorate significant, because if Bernie's on the ticket, then those people are going to vote. And those PMC people who don't like Bernie because of bros or whatever the fuck, they're still going to vote for him because they vote every fucking time and they're committed to the Democratic Party.
But that doesn't necessarily follow, because are you confident that Warren can't expand the electorate?
I don't think, nothing she has shown me so far indicates to me that there's anything in her style of campaigning, in her rhetoric, in her policies that will engage those voters, especially since they have seen Bernie and he's been the one that they identify with breaking through the miasma, right? Because the reason people people with left-wing opinions in with lower education attainment and lower income don't vote is because they have correctly decided that voting doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And Bernie cuts through that with his class first appeal. Warren is, at the end of the day, with all the plan shit, she's making the same technocratic appeals to fidgeting with stuff. Even if you can argue, oh no, this is all going to be radically changing, it's still in the pitch through the technocratic lens that these people check out when they hear, because it's everything they've always fucking heard before. And watching them go crazy for Warren, these people who act like they want to change things, really want a president who, when they get in there, is going to be able to reverse all the damage that's being done and actually act on stuff like fucking climate change and rampant inequality and everything. And they're setting themselves up for a failure. And it's because at the end of the day, not only is Warren less compelling as a campaigner, less able, has shown at least till now, less able to get these voters on her side. She just is less compelling in every sense. The only reason these people like her is because of two specific things. One is that she passes a very shallow identitarian test because she's a woman. We need a female president. And the other is that meritocratic credentialism that is part and parcel with the worldview.
Those aren't the only reasons.
Those are the main ones. What else is the thing that differentiates her from Bernie then?
Because during the Obama years, she was probably, within the Democratic caucus, the most outspoken critic of the president, of his administration. And as well, one of the big things that I think most people remember about Liz Warren, and especially why this crowd loves her, is when these bankers were hauled in front of Congress and she just roasted the shit out of them to their faces.
So what? Who gives a shit about a fucking roast? And
well, I mean, you're talking about talking about style. You brought up style,
right? But I'm saying that style, I think we can.
That's
see.
also why people like Bernie.
No, he didn't roast it. His thing was like
he goes after them. That's his style.
He goes after them in like filibusters and stuff. He didn't like roast people at the dais. Roasting people on the dais of the Senate committee. That's like the Joe Welch thing. That's the classic liberal thing of like a Mr. Smith moment.
Yeah,
and I don't believe that people outside of that milieu remember any of that stuff. But I just want to say one more thing about this, and this is what really made me despondent about that entire fucking encounter, is that this primary, and if it does really come down to, as Virgil thinks, like an establishment candidate, Biden, or more likely according to Virgil Harris, and then Bernie and Warren, is that if Warren wins, honestly, or Bernie wins, is going to tell us whether what we're seeing really is the emergence of like a new working class movement that people have been talking about, or honestly, if this has all been a fucking mirage the entire time, and all we're really seeing is a confluence of professional class guilt, guilty professional class people wanting to launder their sense of being implicated in this grotesque Gilded Age exploitation machine. And then capitalism's instinctive search for a more inclusive logic for its cultural hegemony, which is like, oh, we need to broaden the base of who counts, who can make it in this country, who can be, who can go up through the ladder. And if that's the case, I think if Warren gets the nomination, I think that shows that, oh, we kind of over fucking stated what was actually happening here.